His goal was to create God-tier superheroes.
Only 2 subjects have survived. You, of course, Marie. And in the 80s, Homelander.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Boys Gen V Season 2 Episode 6 video. There's so many Easter eggs and references, so many WTF moments to break down, so if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. Really happy they finally started answering some of the big questions. We started learning more about Marie's sister finally, and more connections with The Boys Season 5. They might have done this also because it's New York Comic Con week. Usually they're pretty good about scheduling stuff for big WTF moments. The episode title was Cooking Lessons, a reference to Stan Edgar's cooking lessons he tried to give the kids and that he talked about getting himself for the high 7 figures from a professional chef in real life. Oh, the things you spend your money on when you have billions of dollars. That's the idea. Stan Edgar is meant to be a billionaire. That's why he makes the reference to all the other billionaires copying him, building their own apocalypse bunkers like he did. His just happens to be Homelander proof, but we will see if they ever try to put that to the test. Really love the Giancarlo Esposito cameo scene in the episode. I don't know if he's going to be in any of the rest of the episodes this season, but it was a pretty big Boys Season 5 crossover moment because he talks a lot about his plans for what's going to happen in the future of the Boys universe with what Homelander is doing right now, what's happening with Vought right now, what he plans to do next as all this is happening in the background. We will dig into that as we go through the episode talking about WTF moments and Easter eggs. If you actually look at the official synopsis for the episode on Amazon Prime, it was actually an advertisement for Billionaires Apocalypse Bunkers. My assumption is also that Vought probably owns the company that builds these bunkers. Worried about the coming culture war in Apocalypse, write it out in style and comfort, sustainable septic systems and feng shui, blast-proof and billionaire-approved. World may be burning, but you'll be 35 feet underground with a glass of 82 Bordeaux. Act now before it's too late. Also, the funny thing too, Stan Edgar says that his apocalypse bunker is way further underground, basically designed to counteract Homelander's powers, X-ray proof, far enough underground to withstand a neutron bomb, which is basically the level of Homelander's powers, he's saying. But the actual opening scene starts right after Marie resurrects Annabeth, her sister, by healing her wound with her new power, major upgrade in the way she's able to access her ability to its full potential. Maybe it will get even more powerful over time as she learns more about it. We also got some confirmation about her sister's powers as well, too. She actually full-on explains them later in the episode, but the idea is that she has precognition, a little bit more like the precogs during Minority Report, more so than, say, like X-Men Jean Grey powers, kind of like Kate's abilities. She doesn't have full-on telepathy, she just has visions of potential futures that she says don't always come true, so it's just future probabilities that she's seeing. Pretty much all of her visions in this episode wind up coming true though, but that might not always be the case in the final episodes. I think there'll be some twists where she's not correct about something. As they escape, she leads them down the correct path, finding the place where Sam will bust through the wall, full Kool-Aid Man, which Emma later then references, you busted through the wall just like the Kool-Aid Man. Also starting down the path of redeeming himself for being such a douche since the beginning of this season after the events of Season 1 with the way things went down. She catches him up on Marie's new power upgrade, and Marie claims she felt more of a connection with every cell in her body than before, giving her the ability to influence cells on a molecular level in her sister's body to heal that wound and essentially resurrect her.
The Force is strong with you.
There are a couple of references about them trying to drive to Canada to escape. The other joke here too when Emma says, we're not going to another country, we're going to Canada, and she doesn't think that it's another country, I think is just a tongue-in-cheek joke from the writers because they shoot this show in Canada, so technically the place that they're driving to is just another place in Canada because they're shooting a fictional TV show. But it's not meant to break the fourth wall or anything like that, like they don't know that they're fictional characters in a TV show. Back at the Dean's house, Cipher's house, he learns that they escaped, orders Vought's men to capture Marie and kill the rest. He's in the middle of doing physical therapy with Thomas Godolkin's burnt body, who is still conscious, when he starts slapping him though, calling him a wink, pink dumpster baby. The idea is that it's supposed to be Thomas Godolkin, whose mind is in Cipher's body, controlling him, slapping himself, basically, the way that you would slap yourself in the mirror occasionally. There are many references during Stan Edgar's conversations explaining Thomas Godolkin's history, Cipher's history to Marie and the rest of the Scooby Gang that I think confirm a lot of big theories about what's really going on with Thomas Godolkin, what really went down during that fire, and how he survived, and what his plans are in present day, and how he's using Cipher like a meat puppet basically. There are still a couple questions that they haven't absolutely confirmed yet, like is Cipher actually his biological son, or just another person that he found and started using his body, basically jumping into his mind, using his body to walk around in. Most of the time when we've heard Cipher speaking to other characters, acting all Emperor Palpatine, it feels like it's Thomas Godolkin speaking through Cipher's body. When the Scooby Gang arrives in Steuben, that's meant to be upstate New York, notice all the Homelander posters on the wall here. There's posters from the Seven, some Starlight Resist posters. There's even one of Cameron Coleman, R.I.P., who the Seven killed after Ashley framed him during Season 4. When they find the wreckage of a library with a bunch of burnt books in the 1984 book, that feels like it's meant to be someone trying to burn them, like it's meant to be a reference to the situation in Homelander's supporters degenerating quickly in the United States, basically things descending into civil war quickly. The 1984 book on the burning pile is meant to be a direct reference to that. Usually for better or for worse, sometimes the Boys Gen V episodes in particular, like The Boys is very on the nose, but Gen V is even more on the nose with some of its references. There are a couple Emma and Sam moments during this episode, starting here where they bond over snacks. This place also kind of meant to give you vibes of their time hanging out in the abandoned movie store in Season 1, just like old times. Part of the idea is they want to tease that he wants to get back with her, but she's not quite on the same page yet. We will see how that goes, because it gets a little creepy later in the episode, so I think the idea is that he is in danger of flying off the handle just because he's so mentally unstable. She tries to call her resistance buddies until she realizes she's never bothered to learn anyone's phone numbers because they're always stored in her phone, and most of their time is spent talking in DMs, as we find later. Just like young people not talking to each other on the phone that much, mostly through text or other ways. There are a couple weird tech references here too. There's a Vought OS, which feels like a reference to the classic Mac OS logo, but it's kind of an amalgam of different tech references from real life, where like there's Microsoft Bing, and they have Instagram, there's Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook in this universe, but it's not totally clear why they would have that. Like, why would you have Microsoft Bing, but not Windows running on the actual computers? So it just winds up being this weird amalgam of different tech references, instead of just having it all be Vought branded versions of real life tech references. Zoom and enhance on the page here, you can see all the people she's been messaging recently. Yes, it hits your ass on its way out is a reference to exactly what you think it is, which is why the reply is just gross.
Tavares, right in the butt?
What?
No.
Sam reads them, sees Greg. Not clear if he totally picks up on the fact that Emma kind of has a thing for him, like, oh, he's just a guy that I know. And I think they're just trying to set up some relationship drama between the three of them. When we see Annabeth clocking Kate's condition, and she seems like she sees something with her power and it troubles her, she might actually be seeing the end of the episode where Kate went with Marie to go see Thomas Godolkin, asking her to heal her and it'll help her out. When they're explaining her powers, they don't really get into too great a detail, like how powerful is she, how far ahead do her visions go. When Marie confirms that she does have compound V in her veins, therefore powers, she says that she never told Pam, their mother's friend who raised her, and Marie had accidentally killed their parents before she could ask them if Vought had injected her with the compound V. That's the likely scenario. Marie was born naturally through Thomas Godolkin's Project Odessa, as we learn later. Then a couple years later, when her sister was born the normal way, their parents had Vought give her the compound V as a baby, like they do with the majority of superheroes. Like, regular superheroes typically get compound V when they're young children. She winds up being a bit of a sweet summer child about all this. Marie has to explain that Vought and Thomas Godolkin, Cipher are all looking for them. She's on their hit list. Cipher basically signed her death warrant too when he told the people to kill the rest and only bring back Marie. So Annabeth has to stay with them, or they'll pick her up the minute she passes in view of a security camera and Vought catches it and Thomas Godolkin and Cipher catch it. There are a number of emotional scenes with them in the episode, like they have this sister arc that they're setting up where her sister still blames her for her parents' death. Basically, they're just setting up the idea eventually they will come back together. There are a couple moments later in the episode, too, with Zoe, where her sister starts to remember what it feels like to actually have a loving family relationship, to actually have a sister. Then we go back to Polarity, who's waking from his drunken accident. Cipher asks him to pass the message to Marie. If she returns and trains with him, he'll let all her friends and her sister live. Notice he also brought food for Polarity, waiting for him to wake up too. That's how weird he is like this. when he tells him the tears in his brain are almost about to kill him the way they did to Andre, and says he tried and failed to heal Andre. This also feels like a reference to what's happening with the Marie storyline and why Cipher, Thomas Godolkin, wants Marie's powers to heal the damage to other superheroes and ultimately heal Thomas Godolkin's burnt body. This is also why he starts talking about faith and miracles in Marie's powers. Basically, she is meant to be the miracle. We also get a better example for how Thomas Godolkin's psychic powers work with Cipher's body when Harper calls Polarity for Emma. Notice he mind controls Polarity to visibly get their location from her. This is basically what he did to Jordan previously. Probably what Thomas Godolkin has been doing to Cipher this whole time. There's still a couple minor questions about that they'll probably answer in episode 7, just confirming a couple theories, but I think there's enough information there to figure out what's really going on. All the stuff here with Annabeth's panic attack feels like it's something she's been having since she was a child, probably a combination of her trauma and how it affects her powers. They really just use this for more of a bonding moment with sisters. She then has the vision of the Viking, Vikor, the show's version of Thor, basically, who throws his version of Mjolnir, the hammer, at them. This solid action scene, the way they use their powers together. Both Sam and Jordan's male form have super strength, and because the hammer is just normal metal, they can block it, but not Jordan when she's in her female form. Then we got our next big cameo scenes in the episode with Zoe, Victoria Newman's daughter, comes back from The Boys main series. Her scene reveal of her powers, the tentacles coming out of her mouth, is meant to be similar for her first big powers reveal the last time she showed up on The Boys. They also use all these cameo scenes to explain what Stan Edgar has been doing since he left Vought, even though we saw him previously during The Boys season. Part of the idea here is that he was Victoria Newman's adoptive father, making him Zoe's grandfather, so he's been caring for her since Victoria Newman's death, and he found her at Red River. But the way that Zoe explains it, right after Butcher's Compound V sentient tumor killed Victoria Newman, Vought put her in Red River, where they put all orphans who don't have family that want to take them or don't care to take them, till Stan Edgar found out that she was at Red River and picked her up. Sounded like that happened pretty quickly, though, and then took her to the Apocalypse bunker, the anti-Homelander bunker.
Safe from X-ray vision or anyone with the power of the neutron bomb.
When he says he's been pursuing other interests since leaving Vought, that's just meant to be a generic teaser for Boys Season 5 plot and beyond, like other future spin-offs, because a lot of what he says involves his plans for retaking control of Vought. He says, oh, it will happen eventually, and that definitely feels like a Boys Season 5 kind of teaser. As he says, he created this Apocalypse bunker to withstand the most powerful superheroes, particularly Homelander. He doesn't specifically call out it being an anti-Homelander bunker, but that's basically the powers that he describes: anti-neutron bomb, anti-X-ray vision, all of Homelander's abilities. Just based on how long it would take to build something like this in the design language, it seems like he built it a long time ago as well, too. Like he was planning on some sort of contingency plan. Homelander would eventually go off the rails and he would need a place like this, so it just happened to be there ready to go when he was kicked out of Vought. Probably one of the coolest things about his scenes is the way that he is no fool. He doesn't have every single bit of information, but you see the way that he picks through different bits of information and connects the dots behind the scenes, like he figures it out while he's talking to them. There are a couple Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook billionaire jokes, like billionaire apocalypse bunkers before they were cool. Also now canon that Mark Zuckerberg exists in the Boys universe. They just reference Elon Musk, so there are like a lot of real world things that are inside the Boys universe, or versions of them. There are a couple other interesting moments here, too, that you probably notice. He visibly shows sadness and care for Zoe when they mention Victoria Newman's death. I think just to show you that Stan Edgar does have feelings. He's not like a total psychopath or robot or anything like that in the way that Homelander is a psychopath. Most of his planning and his rhetoric to Marie make it sound like he doesn't care to try and stop the apocalypse, only to survive it and rule what's left, which is every bit as evil as what Homelander is doing right now. As you would expect, they use most of his scenes for big info dump, big lore dump too, just on what's going on. Generally, he catches them up on the history of Thomas Godolkin in Project Odessa. Probably one of the more interesting details, though, is what he does not know about Thomas Godolkin in present day. So it just goes to show you that he doesn't know every single thing that was happening underneath his nose while he was CEO of Vought. He actually claims he knew nothing of Thomas Godolkin's plans for Marie, or Cipher's plans for Marie, but really it's Thomas Godolkin's plans in Project Odessa, so he only learned of Marie's existence when Victoria Newman told him about her. Really love the way they use the cooking scene to set all this stuff up too, giving the episode its title, Cooking Lessons. Great way they break it down with the conversation too, very kinetic. Also because Giancarlo Esposito, just fantastic actor, he punches up, upgrades any scene that he is in. When he starts talking about Thomas Godolkin's history in Project Odessa, he says, originally the serum that we saw in episode 1 was designed to create god-tier superheroes, ultra powerful, but the serum was unstable as we saw go down. Everyone's powers went out of control, killing them, and explains that when Marie's mother was pregnant with her, at the earliest possible point, Compound V was injected into the fetus, which is basically how Homelander was created in the comics, as they start making jokes later that Marie is basically Homelander's cousin now, because they are the only two test subjects to survive Compound V treatments like this. This is why Cipher and Sage were making all the references to her being just as powerful, if not more powerful, than Homelander, and it worrying Homelander, and them being worried about what Homelander is going to do about that when he learns how powerful Marie is. Basically the idea that Thomas Godolkin, and then through Cipher, eventually like Meat Puppet Cipher, wanted to continue trying to create another god-tier superhero, another Homelander, essentially.
His goal was to create god-tier superheroes.
Stan Edgar has a few more Homelander jokes, calling him a gaping abyss of deep need and sociopathy. To be fair, though, Vought did that to him. They turned him into that because of the way they abused him as a child, and it was messed up. They kind of got into that during the season 4 episode where he goes back to the lab where they were testing him like a pincushion, basically, a human testing rat. They kind of got into the nitty-gritty there, but they would try to kill him, hurt him any way they could when he was a little kid, just to try and learn the limits of his powers, inject him with like every single thing they could try to find, just to try and find a weakness. As you would probably expect, that drove him crazy. Notice the way that he talks about Cipher and Thomas Godolkin too. Thomas Godolkin believed that he could control superheroes, thus the telepathy and the shock collars that we saw in the prison in the Cipher twist. There are also a lot of clues that they give you through his conversation too, as he's starting to figure things out, connect dots behind the scenes, because at the beginning of the conversation, Stan Edgar doesn't know everything, but after he starts talking to them, he starts learning more information and begins to connect things mid-conversation. When he starts out by saying that Cipher doesn't believe in controlling superheroes the way that Thomas Godolkin did, I think the idea is that Thomas Godolkin just adapted his previous methods when he did survive the fire, and it's still him. In effect, he is Cipher essentially, or just using Cipher's body all these years. When he claims Cipher's endgame is superhero supremacy, that's also kind of what Homelander wants, but really Homelander doesn't care that much about other superheroes, only about himself and about Ryan. That's pretty much it. That and maybe Milk. Stan Edgar reveals that when he was still CEO, he permanently shut down Project Odessa after Marie was born and didn't manifest any powers that they could detect at the time. He basically just mothballed the project, meaning that's probably when Thomas Godolkin, using Cipher, who the young version here we see, Mr. Gold Young, started to get creative with his supremacy plan and use things like the prison and the shock collars to make superheroes optimize their powers. Basically just switching his tactics, but with the ultimate same type of goal, make more powerful superheroes. Then they start getting a little more on the nose here with the clues connecting things. He subtly confirms Cipher is Thomas Godolkin or his mind when he says that he recreated all of his work after it was destroyed miraculously in a fire that also supposedly killed him, because Stan Edgar says Vought never found Godolkin's body. Kate then tells them about the burnt charcoal briquette Thomas Godolkin, and the idea, I think Stan Edgar incorrectly assumes that Cipher is his different own person and is trying to extract all of Thomas Godolkin's information from his brain, when really what's going on is this is Thomas Godolkin himself pulling all the strings, and is just using Cipher's body like a meat puppet to do it. Then he starts to get classic evil Stan Edgar again, like season 1, season 2 Stan Edgar from The Boys main series. He says the deal that he was going to offer her was living safely in the Apocalypse bunker until he's able to regain control of Vought, which he says he will definitely be doing soon, like The Boys season 5 timeline, and her loyal service to him at Vought after that, which is kind of like what he does with all superheroes just in general for Vought, because Vought controls all superheroes, kind of like Black Noir being his attack dog, basically. When he gives Marie all of Thomas Godolkin's original research, she sees what he originally looked like in those flashbacks. This will be important if she actually uses her powers to heal his face. Like, oh, you're the guy. You are Thomas Godolkin. She sees the prison shock collars that Cipher used on them at the prison are Thomas Godolkin's design. Just connecting the dots between the two of them, like, oh, very clearly this is Thomas Godolkin using his powers in Cipher's body to further his research using slightly different methods. But he does state, very important detail, that he could use all of his research, all of his technology, powers to stop Homelander.
If that's Godolkin, he can stop Homelander.
We will see if they put this to the test during Gen V Season 2. Just because there was a big Homelander cameo at the end of Season 1, maybe there'll also be something similar at the end of Season 2. Later when Jordan calls Marie Homelander's cousin, biologically, they're not actual cousins, they're just more like metaphorical cousins because they were created in the same way. Back at the house, Cipher threatens to make Polarity empty a shotgun into his own butthole with his psychic powers, then uses his powers to make him slap himself. I mean, really, it's Thomas Godolkin's powers, but we're talking about Cipher here in his body, so you kind of understand the reference. When he says his father took him to Australia as a child, this probably is Thomas Godolkin remembering his father even longer ago, but uses the metaphor of the hunters culling the weaker population of kangaroos to maintain the strength, saying that he's going to cull the herd from the school by 75% because there's so many chuds at the school right now, superheroes that are basically worthless. Directly referencing the kid who's got the pocket dimension in his butthole. He calls it a quantum singularity, but that's basically what it is. It's like what we're seeing on Peacemaker right now with the pocket dimension, with the 99 doors to other different dimensions. Imagine if Peacemaker climbed through someone's butthole to get into that pocket dimension every single time. Polarity then uses his willpower and his powers to resist Thomas Godolkin's psychic powers, then blast him out of the second-story window, who then runs off. They don't completely explain this, but I think they just want to show you that he's accessing his powers more fully in the way that Andre was trying to do before he was actually killed by the micro-tears in his brain. But that's part of the threat to Polarity. If Marie isn't able to heal the micro-tears in his brain, which she probably eventually will, he will also die too, ultimately, from the effort. They get very, very Breakfast Club because it does feel like Breakfast Club with superpowers with the Scooby Gang here for the cover of Simple Minds, Don't You Forget About Me. Great way to end the episode. Marie then leaving the bunker to go get answers for Thomas Godolkin herself so the others don't get hurt. Kate then asking her to fix her powers so she can help her keep Cipher out of her head and goes with her, implying that she will eventually heal her. And it's part of Kate's redemption too, making up for what she did during Season 1. There was a lot going on in the episode, so if you spotted any Easter eggs or references that I didn't talk about in the video or questions you have about different plot turns or story, just write them below in the comments and I'll try to get to them in the comments. There's going to be a lot coming in the next couple of days because of New York Comic Con. My full episode 7 video will post next week after they release it, but we have Game of Thrones, Night of the Seven Kingdoms trailer footage coming. We have a bunch of Marvel, a bunch of DC trailers that should also be dropping too. I will try to do videos for everything as well. Speaking of crossover synergy, because we're also talking about Amazon here with the Boys universe, there should be an Invincible panel with some footage this weekend too. I don't know what they plan on releasing. If they do drop a trailer, of course I will do videos for it. Everybody click here for all my New York Comic Con trailers and videos, and click here for all my Gen V Boys episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.